If you are in a relationship that is not healthy, but you cannot bear the thought of leaving, they are showing you who they really are. They are showing you what they really care about, what their true priorities are. They are showing you who they really are. You probably have an idealized version of them in your head. You are probably wishing that if they could only just change this one thing or two things or whatever, everything would be fine. And you're just waiting for that moment for them to recognize all of your positive influence on them. And they're like, okay, I see what you mean. I'm going to change from here on out. And poof, one day they are better. And you can continue on your merry way and be in this relationship happily. I know it sucks. I know it's hard. But you have to, at some point, accept that this is who they are. And that no amount of you reasoning with them, explaining it to them, coaxing them, holding their hand through it, being as gentle and understanding as possible towards them, no amount of that is going to change them. Because they are an adult, they are responsible for their own lives. It is ultimately not up to us what they do. And the turning point for me in relationships like this was having to admit very begrudgingly that this is what it is. Now, right now, they are showing me who they are, and I have to deal with that. That is on me. So if you're in this, I'm going to give you a little bit of tough love and say, why are you staying? Because all of adults, we're all allowed to do whatever we want. They're free to just decide that they want to go and live life their own way, no matter how much you want them to live life your way. It's up to them to decide if they want to go and flirt with other people or cheat on you or spend money a certain way or don't do certain things that we want them to do. It is up to them. We're all free to live our lives our own way. And so are we. I had to ask myself, why am I, an adult who is free in the world, choosing to wake up and stay in this relationship every day? Choosing because I am aware that at any moment, I know that I could stand up and walk away and say, we're done. I was aware that that was something available to me. I am not in a physical cage. It is what it is. It's like the definition of insanity to keep doing the same thing over and over and over and expecting a different result, right? And I realized, oh, that's me. Shit. And so I had to ask myself, why are you staying with him? Because I love him and I want to, okay, but he's obviously not changing. So why are you staying with him? Because I'm afraid to leave, because I don't know what life would be like without him. There, that's the honest answer. And I was like, okay, it's on me now. And this is often the heaviest part, is when you realize, okay, it's on me now. My happiness is on my own shoulders. It's up to me now of where I'm going to shift my focus and my priorities. If it's no longer about his happiness, our happiness, if it's about my happiness now, things are going to have to change. I can't keep doing the same thing over and over and expect a better result. So that was the heaviest thing that I had to admit, is that the reason why I am staying in this relationship that I'm not happy in is because I don't know what life would be like without him. It's too scary. It feels too uncomfortable. It feels impossible. But I had to think about it and say, wait a minute. There was life without him. There was a period in my life where I didn't even know that he existed. There was a period in my life before we met. And I knew how to function in life before I met him. Maybe it wasn't the happiest functioning. Maybe it was a less mature version of myself, but it was still a version of myself who was going through life just fine without knowing about his entire existence. And that was one thing that I really had to let sink in, is that I knew how to function without him at one point in my life. What is it about now that makes me think that I need him in my life? And then I realized, okay, What changed since then? Did I become a softer person? Did I become a more needy person? No. It's that I gave my identity away to the relationship and to his happiness and to his world. And thus, I lost my own sense of self, which is why when I'm spat out of his world and he's over there taking his world and all of my world with him, I feel completely like I'm out in the open, no safety net, no comfort zone, nothing, because I was so comfortable and used to living in his world. And so in order for me to get my own world back, I had to start to extract and pull back all the parts of me that were absorbed into his world. What I decided to do is I'm like, you know what? I know I'm not strong enough to leave this relationship right now. I know I cannot handle it. And I had to admit that and be okay with that. I'm like, look, we're going to work on this. This is me talking to myself. We're going to work on this together. We're going to get our identity back. And one day I'm going to be able to have him leave and I won't freak out as much. I had to believe that. I had to believe that, okay, if I lost my identity and this is the reason why I cannot leave this relationship, the solution then is to regain my identity. And so your identity is the most important part here. It is not about how you break up with them. It is not about, oh, I'm just going to have to be stronger. I'm just going to have to love myself more. It isn't that. Those things are going to come once you start to build your identity. The identity is the way to those things. The identity is the how. So what I did was I looked at what friends I had, what few friends I had that weren't also his, and I started to hang out with them more without him. I wanted to have friends that felt more mine than his. And even more importantly, if there was people that I met that didn't know him and weren't his friend at all, I wanted to have my own separate friends. So I started to hang out with other people more and to get used to it and to get accustomed to it. Because everything about identity is just getting accustomed to a new way of being. So it's going to feel uncomfortable at first, but it's just about learning to get used to a new separate identity. And so every single thing that I did that differentiated myself from his world was a step closer into revitalizing and gaining a piece of my own identity back. I would start to explore interests that I had that he thought were ridiculous or had no interest in or didn't even know about. I began to look up different classes. I didn't even take any of them, but I just began to look into them. I began to look into things just online that I'd had no projection of him participating in. And this is a big thing, is a lot of it is mental. It had to be a mental practice of starting to see myself separate from him just mentally. Instead of saying, oh, we do this together, we are one together. Even basic stuff like grocery shopping, which I thought was such a couple thing to do. I'm like, we're going to go grocery shopping and buy food for our house, our whatever, things that we want to eat. I started to just go and shop for stuff on my own. And I had to retrain myself because I was so used to that if I was shopping on my own, I'd always look for something that I could bring home to him to be like, look, I was thinking of you. This is for you, right? It's more them oriented. It's putting them in the front. No more of that. I was like, you know what? I'm going to go and make this grocery trip all about me. What do I need? If it's just me, what do I need? If it's to please myself, what do I need? And something I realized was I looked at the shampoo that I was buying for myself, and it was the cheapest shampoo possible. It wasn't even like a generic Walmart brand. It was like a dollar store generic brand. And I had to ask myself, why am I buying myself this low quality stuff? If guests were coming over or if I was buying something for him, I would look for something sexier. I would look for something that sounds like a name brand or something that actually has substance to it. And it's not about spending more money for no reason or about brand names or anything like that. It's about actually having quality items for myself. Why did I believe in having quality items for other people but not me? Why did I go out of my way to buy him the best stuff but then leave myself with just the shittiest whatever that I just pick off the shelf carelessly, that's on sale, that is the bottom of the barrel? Why was I doing that? I had to really look at everything I was doing and compare it to how I was doing it with him and say, okay, why am I not giving myself the same care, the same attention, the same financial gifting? Why did it make more sense to splurge on him than myself? And I really had to rein it back in and say, you know what? I'm going to buy hair products that I think are like luxurious for me. And luxurious for me at the time was, name brand products that actually cost more than $2. I don't know. It was whatever it is that makes sense to you. This is obviously just whatever feels right to you. That like, okay, if I was going to give myself the same attention as I was giving them, what would that look like? If I was going to give myself the same type of giving, what would it look like? And so it was so much of this mental reprogramming when I go through my day, tending to the way and paying attention to the way that I do things for myself, and noticing how much he infiltrated my mind when I was just going about doing anything. Just driving through the city, I'd be like, oh, that reminds me of him. Oh, maybe he'd be interested in that. I had to rein it back in and say, wait. This isn't about him right now. What interests me? And it was weird. It feels really weird at first, but this is how you start to do it so you don't be over affected whatever happens in your relationship. And this is the thing that I most wanted, is I didn't even know at the time if we're going to break up or not. I just knew that something had to change. And if he wasn't changing, it had to be me. And so I was like, I am tired of always being so affected by him, over affected by him. The little things he does, I'm like, you know how it is. So I was like, whatever happens, I want to be in the place where I am less affected, so I am more in control of myself. So I am more sane to deal with all the stuff that happens in our relationship. And I want to be able to handle this. I want to handle this in a way that is stronger. I want to handle this in a way that is more graceful and intentional and more of the person that I want to be. I don't want to be this frazzled, out of control person just because he doesn't do one thing, or because he says something, or because I'm obsessed with what he's doing and I'm trying to figure out if he's changing or not. I wanted to be back in my own self. So going and paying attention to the little details and starting to put more emphasis and more care on me. It was kind of fun because it felt naughty. And I talked about this in the previous video, where it does feel like you are overindulging. It feels like you're splurging on yourself. It feels like you're spoiling yourself. And to me, that felt evil and wrong. And that comes from a whole slew of upbringing stuff. But maybe you have that too. Maybe you have something that says, why am I wasting my money on buying myself this name brand thing? It's just me. Why? Why don't you enjoy things? Why don't you enjoy your own experience of things? When I use upgraded shampoo, the texture is better. It washes my hair so much better. It smells so much better. The whole experience in the shower is better. It is aesthetically better on the shelf in the shower. I notice these things now. I notice how it up-levels my own experience. And I had to purposely focus on these things and value these things and say, look, the 5 minutes you spent washing your hair, that was so much better than before. And I had to remind myself to replace my own experience with that of how I'm experiencing him. Once you start to refocus yourself on yourself in these little mundane areas of your life, it starts to trickle outwards. It starts to infiltrate all the other areas of your life. It starts to change who you are and how you see yourself, how you carry yourself, the way you think about yourself in your life, in your relationship. It makes you stronger when you are in yourself. And this is why it's so important just to get these basic things down, even if it's just a mental shift in your head that you're practicing. Even if you're still being affected by them, do what little things you can here and there just to regain snippets of yourself back. What little you have control over, take it back and start to do things in a new way. And I really want to emphasize this because it really is part of your identity, is how you treat yourself, how you shop for yourself, how you pay attention to yourself. That is your identity. It becomes a part of your identity if you're like, yeah, I'm not somebody, I'm just low maintenance. That's something I told myself all the time. It's like, no, I care about, I buy nice stuff for him, but I'm low maintenance. I don't need that stuff. And I thought it was this great thing. I thought I was so amazing and selfless. But when I looked at it, I'm like, why don't I be a little bit more high maintenance for myself? I deserve nice things too. And I really had to kind of start make myself believe it. I'm like, why don't I give myself better things in my life? Why don't I be more selfish with my time because it feels good and productive to me? Why don't I say no to things that I don't want to frickin' do because I feel so much better if I'm not doing it? Why do I prioritize other people's emotions more than my own when deep down it pisses me off and makes me feel like it's unfair, and yet here I am still doing it? I had to question why I am doing these things and why I don't deserve better. And why don't I make myself a little bit more high maintenance? Why don't I be a little bit more selfish? You have to make it feel a little sinful, like you're breaking the rules. It has to feel naughty and fun, like you're smoking behind the gym in high school or something like that. It has to feel like, oh, we're sneaking outside of our curfew kind of feeling when you're breaking the rules as a teenager. It has to feel like you're breaking the rules and it's freaking fun and it feels good to you. Because everything else is going to be difficult. Everything else is going to be hard when you're dealing with all the emotions with them. So you have to steal back these little moments for yourself. And this is how I started to build up the strength, build up my own identity, to leave situations in which it wasn't working. And if I hadn't done this for me, if I hadn't done this for myself, if I didn't prioritize myself and do it this way, I could have tried to do it and break up with them, leave the situation, and I would immediately fall apart after. So it's not about how you do it. It's about working up the strength and the inner knowing and the inner sense of self. The strong sense of self is what's going to help you to stay whole when things are falling apart. This is what it's all about. Strengthening your identity, revitalizing, thriving your own identity. So when things start to fall apart, you are still as whole as possible. And not that it's not going to suck. It's just going to suck less and be a lot more manageable. So, listen, I understand how hard it is. I don't expect you to change overnight. Don't judge yourself. Don't be hard on yourself. Just be direct and attentive to yourself and say, you deserve better than this. Talk to yourself like another person. Say, we're going to get ourselves out. We're going to get you out of here. We're going to strengthen you. They're not going to have one over on us. We're going to be ourselves now. This is for us. This is for me. You got this, okay? It might not happen right away. You're going to have a lot of slip-ups. It's normal. What is important is that you just start to take your own identity back. Start to prioritize yourself in the smallest ways. And no matter what happens in the relationship, you're going to be better for it. You're going to be stronger. You're going to be more of yourself. And I believe you can do this. I believe in you. You have an identity that is worth revitalizing, worth bringing to the surface. And this is what's going to help you no matter what happens. Helps you stay whole no matter what happens. So that's what I wanted to share with you. And it's not about staying strong. It's about your identity. It's about holding on to yourself and treating yourself well. And paying attention to who you are. And prioritizing having your own sense of self and living in your own world.